So guys, today we're going to be doing something that I honestly haven't made before in my life, because normally you can just literally go to the store, find some English muffins and have, well, either Eggs Benedict or make yourself a nice little Egg McMuffin or a little sausage Egg McMuffin. But since I can't honestly find them here, or unless I go to a specialty shop and they're quite expensive, we're going to make some English muffins today. So I'm going to be using a recipe from an old English cookbook, and I will leave the name of the book down below if you want to check that out. But this is a very straightforward recipe. It is a little longer than making scones, but it is a very light recipe, meaning that the end product or the muffins are very fluffy and light. So wow, it's just a good recipe, I think, and it's a great recipe as well for some beginners. So guys, before we get going today, be sure to like the video down below, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and let's get baking. Alright, now with baking, I like to weigh and measure out all my ingredients before I get started. This just allows us to be more organized and allows us to work a little faster. Now I am going to sieve my flour today, just because this is a bit of an old bag and there can be larger pieces in it. And then obviously I'm going to weigh and measure out my water and milk. Now you can substitute the water and milk for whey. If you can't get that, then don't worry about it. Use some milk and use a little bit of water. Now the one thing though is today we're going to be using this recipe with fresh yeast. And here's a little trick. What you're going to do is you're going to take a little bowl. You're going to take the fresh yeast that you've weighed out, put that in the bowl, and then add the sugar to this, granulated sugar. And then you're going to literally mix the yeast into the sugar, and after about 5 or so minutes you'll start to see the yeast literally turn into more of a liquid state. And this is, well, it's starting to eat the sugar, so it's starting to multiply again and again, the little microbes. And this is what we want, because this will make the bread nice and fluffy. So first I'm going to add my salt to the flour, and I'm going to mix this in. We already have the yeast ready, and we have our water and milk on the stove warming up. We don't want this hot. We just want this more or less 35 degrees, 38, around there, more or less. You don't want it too hot and you don't want this too cold, otherwise this will affect the yeast. And then after about 5 minutes, I'm going to mix the yeast into the milk and water mixture and mix this in good. We want to dissolve the yeast the best we can. And then of course you want to take your big bowl, or your pot, my pot in my case, and we're going to slowly add this milk in to the dry ingredients. And I'm just going to use my spatula because this is a very sticky mixture, and this mix is very, very sticky. And trust me, it's better if you use a spatula to it. Now, once this comes together, you may want to switch to a wood or metal spoon, just so you have a little more force in mixing and kneading it. You want to get it to the point of more or less that you see in the video, where you start to work the gluten. If you have a little mixer with you, I would highly suggest using a little mixer instead. You're going to need this for about 10 minutes. If not, doing it by hand is going to be a little more exercise, but you know, it's good for you if you do this in the morning. That way we get everything done. And now after it gets to more or less that state that you see is very elastic, I'm going to take the spatula, clean all the sides down. I'm going to take a damp kitchen cloth, and then I'm just going to drape this over it, and we're going to let this sit for about an hour and a half to 2 hours in a nice, warm, dark place. So turn off the lights in the kitchen, walk away, and well, do something else for the next 2 hours. And once the timer goes off, come back. Basically you want it to double in size, and this will be ready. After it's doubled in size, you're going to deflate the dough, so punch it. You can mix it around a little more, knead it lightly. Then we're going to let this rise again for another 30 minutes. After the 30 minutes are up, I'm going to take a little bit of corn flour or cornstarch, and I'm going to sprinkle this on a nice clean space of the kitchen countertop, as well as I'm going to have my little scale next to me so I can measure. Now I'm just going to dust my fingers because this will be sticky. I'm going to dump the dough on the counter, and then I'm just going to break off more or less 75 gram sections of the dough. I'm going to weigh it, take my little pieces and just line them up. And then after you weigh all the pieces of your dough out, and again, keep your hands dusted because this will be extremely sticky, then I'm going to shape them. You're just going to roll these into a nice little ball, and as you see in the video, it was a little hard for me to change the camera because this was so sticky and I had to wash my hands several times already in the video, so I'm trying to show the best. But you want to cup it in your hand, and you're just going to fold the outside of the little ball of dough in your hand inward, and this is going to be the bottom. You're going to line all your little balls of dough up, and then we're going to take our kitchen cloth again and we're going to lay that on top, walk away and let that rest and rise for another 30 minutes. You want to make sure that you have at least an inch or more space between the little balls of dough because they will start to expand. Now here comes the fun part. After this is done, you're going to take your frying pan, either a thick bottom skillet if you have one, or well, anything that you have. If it is a non-stick, then you don't need to use any semolina. If it is a normal pan, then it's a good idea to use a little bit of semolina or even a little bit of polenta, just so it doesn't stick to the pan while it's cooking. We're gonna put this on low heat, and on my induction I was actually using number 4, number 5, just to keep an eye on it, as this was a little different cooking this on an actual induction instead of a gas or an electric burner. You're going to put the top side down first because we want both sides flat, and you're going to cook this for about 5 to 6 minutes on each side. I'm also going to add the top or the lid to the pan just to keep the heat in. Now this will be fully cooked, or it should be within the 5-minute mark, unless you made these extra big. The only thing is you want a little bit of color on both sides. So you may want to turn up the heat, or you may want to leave these a little longer on the stove just to have a little bit of that golden brown color on it. And then of course when this is finished, we're going to let these cool on a wire rack. And that's it. These are super easy to make. They do take a little bit of time, but they go great with, say, eggs and cheese, or if you want to make yourself a little egg and cheese or egg and sausage McMuffin. It's a great option as well, because this is, again, a very versatile little muffin that you use for everything. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this super easy and delicious recipe for the Little English Muffins. If you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to write me down below. I'll see you again soon in my new kitchen, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already to my YouTube channel, and like the video. It helps out greatly with the algorithm. Until then, take care.